Good evening, everyone. This is recording. Okay, good. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Greater Mattapan Neighborhood Council's monthly meeting for December 5th, 2022. Hard to believe this is the last monthly meeting for 2022 already. But tonight we have a full agenda, so we're just going to get right in. The first presenter for this evening is Ben Carlson, who is the Director of Urban Design at CHPlanning and also Nspiregreen Neighborhood Development. And the focus of this conversation is going to be about how can lead development, sustainable green design benefit Greater Mattapan residents in practice. The everyday homeowner who often, we hear all about the green design, but how does it filter down to us, and how do we partake in these solutions? So Ben, I'll let you take it away. We are trying to keep to time this evening, so if you can try to make in 20 minutes. Hello, Mr. Skelly Jr., and who's waving, and take it from there. Thank you.
Sounds good. I'll try to be fairly quick, and I probably have a little more detail on slides than we really need, but I won't speak to all of it, and try to move right through it pretty quickly. Can you see this screen okay? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, great. So thank you for inviting me. Yeah, I'm with CHPlanning. We're a planning firm. It's based, I'm here in Boston, in JP, but firm is based in Philadelphia, and we're actually a Black woman-owned firm that does planning for land use, neighborhoods, transportation, and resilience. So thank you for the invitation. And yeah, I'll introduce LEED and a little bit of the world of sustainable design standards, and think about how could that be useful in Mattapan. And we're really at a stage where there's LEED, and there's a number of some other design standards that over the last 20 years have grown, but mostly they're applied to fancier buildings, right? They're done by cities, they're done by universities, big companies that can pay for some of the cost premiums of green building. But we haven't seen that come to our homes and our neighborhoods yet at the same level. But these programs are evolving. And so this conversation you started is coming at exactly the right time. And it's a great opportunity to push the city. And in many ways, I think Boston is doing a lot of things that can help this happen of bringing green design to our homes and to our streets. And so, what are the types of things that sustainable design can do that's useful to all of us as residents? It improves health for us and our kids. It reduces the cost of energy. So like we direct, reduction in what we're paying for heating or for electricity. Helps resilience, helps reduce flooding, helps us deal with heat waves and impacts of climate change. And it can help with environmental justice because oftentimes Black and brown communities have been impacted by too much of loss of tree canopy, of environments that are not healthy, and so now we have opportunities to really bring healthier and better places to live for everybody. So what does LEED mean? It stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. It's a very common standard for sustainable design of buildings, but also neighborhoods, and starting to be like city scale too. And you basically earn points. There's different rating systems, but you can earn up to about 100 or 110 points. If you get 40, that's where you begin to certify a building that it's a LEED building. And then you've got silver and gold. But a lot of the strategies, you don't have to certify your building. There's still a lot of good ideas and strategies that can be applied on a small scale in our homes, in our yards, on our streets, in ways that make a difference. So I'll skip over this, but that's what LEED is, just a prevailing set of environmental standards. And I'll share some examples of the standards. I won't go through all of them. That would take a while. But the general categories, to give you an idea, are these. One is location and transportation. That's picking a good place to build your building or locate your business or your home. And the great thing is Mattapan is already an excellent place. Essentially, what the location and transportation standards are all about is helping people live and work and play in urban neighborhoods. Mattapan is a great example of that, and not all parts of the neighborhood, maybe up to the greatest standard in terms of access to transportation or schools or other things people want. But in general, it's good. A lot of it is very walkable. There's sustainable sites, which is about preserving green space where we can. It's about dealing with rainwater. There's water efficiency, which is using as little water as we can. A big part of it is energy and atmosphere, minimizing our energy use, reducing emissions into the air. Materials and resources. It's using materials for building that aren't causing damage to people or the environment. And there's indoor environmental quality, which is creating healthy interiors, places people feel good to be in. Those are the main categories. And there's a set of standards that apply to buildings. And this picture here is actually the Mattapan Public Library, which is the LEED certified building. And then there's a set of standards that apply to communities. This is the Old Colony Public Housing, which is up next to the beginning of the South Boston. That's a LEED certified neighborhood. But it's the same major themes that apply, whether you're talking about one building or a whole series of blocks and streets. So these themes really carry over. And there are other standards that we won't go into in detail, but there's something called the well building standard, which is about health, and it takes that a little further. There's Living Building Challenge, which focuses on energy. It also gets into equity and beauty. There's something called Passive House out of Europe, which is very common as well. And even Boston Schools has green standards, healthy standards for buildings. So there are a bunch of good models out there. All we need to do is apply them and find a way to start applying them to Mattapan. So one of the perspectives to think about is tree canopy and heat, because those are a big part of staying healthy and reducing heating and cooling costs. Mattapan is down here, and the darker the green, the more tree canopy. And what we actually see is it sort of varies. There are parts of Mattapan that have pretty good tree canopy to the west, and then other parts, especially Blue Hill Avenue quarter, don't have so much. And so parts of Mattapan have more trees than some other neighborhoods, but there's certainly opportunity to improve. And then this version of the map shows where there's extra heat, and at the same time, same day, some places in Mattapan may feel a lot cooler than other places. Places where the sun's asphalt and rooftops and concrete are going to be hotter. So that's one of the themes. What can we do to make places that are cooler when it's hot, warmer when it's cool? This slide, I started to think about who benefits and how do people think differently about how sustainable design might matter to them. And I suspect a lot of us here are residents. We rent or own a home, and think about what we're paying for energy. We think about the healthiness of the materials around us, the options we have to go grocery shopping or get to schools or parks nearby. Those are all very direct things. Now, some of us might be business owners who also have an interest in sustainable design, but sometimes in different ways. Energy might be even more important, because some businesses, a store might have refrigerators and other equipment they're operating that use more energy. I think when we get to landlords, which gets to the questions of renters, it's sort of a different list. And landlords may be less concerned about sort of doing the right thing and more just about improving resilience, because green design can help reduce damage from flooding or other storm risks. But there's also a risk that landlords are going to invest in green design and then charge more for spaces. So when we think about policy, we want to think about that. And then the city is a really important partner too. And I think that's part of the idea here, is to think about how can the city help through the spaces it controls, and the streets are really important ones as we think about street trees, areas where we can walk safely. It's also parks and other civic buildings and city facilities. So I'm going to just quickly walk through a few example ways these might apply. I'm not going to read all the examples, but when we think about location and transportation, you get points for choosing the right location. And so one project that comes to mind that's a good example of that is this housing that's, I think it may be done now. It's the old Coke Ford site, Cummins Highway, near the new commuter rail station, and that's an example of a good location. I think, unless you live across the street and you don't like it, but it's a location that sat for years as an underutilized site, so it's good to get it back into use. Good to have people there and lights on, and you can easily walk to Mattapan Square, to the train and to the bus. So it's an example of a good location. The city also has incentives for electric vehicle charging. So this theme sort of gets into transportation and access, and putting development, putting people's homes in places where it's easy and convenient to live and get to work. Sustainable sites. This is about, a lot of it's about green areas. It could be tree canopy, it could be green areas at ground level or on rooftops to soak up water. And green roofs are usually on flat roofs, but some people are even putting them on sloped roofs. But how do we help a homeowner afford a green roof like this? And look at all this opportunity we have around Mattapan Square to green these roofs. This white roof here is going to keep things a lot cooler on a hot day than all these black tar paper roofs. So there's a lot we can do just working with our rooftops that'll make our environment more pleasant. Being efficient with water, there are toilets and other fixtures we can buy here in Boston that use less water and lower our water bills. This is actually in my backyard. This is a rain barrel that's useful in a couple of ways. It collects water off a roof. It helps nourish this garden, which is helpful when it's really dry. But the rain barrel has also been helpful to me because you put it in the right place, it reduces the water leakage into my basement, which used to happen when it rained a lot. But now if the barrel is collecting that, it's not so much. So this is an example of a small scale, easy solution, but that helps. So other one, energy and atmosphere. There's a huge opportunity now where we have heat pumps, and believe it or not, it's basically the opposite of an air conditioner. But just as an air conditioner can make your interior cool when it's hot outside, the new heat pumps, even in a winter climate like we have, can make your interior warm when it's cold outside. And that actually uses less energy than a traditional gas or oil furnace, and it can use clean electricity. So there's a big opportunity to when it comes time to replace our heating plants, to use these more efficient solutions. And it's also a lot about insulation, insulating our older buildings, putting in newer windows. If you're a business, it's also about efficient refrigerators and careful use of refrigerants so they don't escape into the atmosphere. Materials are a big thing. And there's a movement now to use less steel and concrete because those produce a lot of carbon, and use wood instead, which is more renewable. And City of Boston is actually working with the local group of architects on some example projects. And so even 7-8-story buildings now are being designed that use like big stout timbers for their support instead of steel and concrete. And that's also being done in some smaller scale residential buildings too. And we can also recycle. Boston Building Resources Center is a place you can you can buy a door or a stove or cabinets that someone else doesn't need anymore, and you can reuse it again. Indoor environmental quality is really about keeping us healthy. One example down here, these are actually some stains that I tried recently that are cleaner. They're not based on petroleum. So when you're applying them, they don't smell so bad and they're not bad for you. They do cost a little more, but they actually go a little further. So this can create a healthier interior, not just for residents, but also part of indoor environmental quality is for the environment that construction workers are working in too. So if you're in construction, this is important to you because it means fewer chemicals or other hazards. It also means getting good ventilation, but filtering the air to keep it nice and clean. And the pandemic has taught us a lot of lessons about filtering air, but also just things like getting good daylight and views to trees outside. Also is sustainable design and can help us be healthier and feel better. There's also a whole list out there of dangerous chemicals that we should not put in our buildings that traditionally were things like asbestos and PCBs, formaldehyde, but there are a lot of products you can buy these days that avoid all of these. So it's keeping us healthy and keeping workers healthy. So to wrap up, because I know we're almost done, what do we need to actually make sustainable design attainable and affordable for more people throughout the neighborhood? We need money available. We need grants. A lot of investments, especially in like insulation and in solar heating or solar power. It can pay you back over time, but it might take 5 or 10 years. So you might want a loan up front to help pay that cost up front, so then you get it back later. It's about getting information, and it's about design solutions that work well for smaller houses, not just the bigger buildings that have been a lot of the green design focus so far. If it's landlords, how can we think of ways that will encourage or require the landlords to improve rental buildings so they're healthier and cleaner, but in ways that aren't shifting the cost burden onto the renters? And so it may be that by improving in rainwater management, we're making them less likely to flood. Maybe the insurance costs go down. Maybe the city could reduce taxes a little bit. The city could also do things like remove for free some of the dangerous materials or the old oil burning furnace that's inside to make it easier for someone to invest in sustainable design. And then city infrastructure. This is intersection of Blue Hill Avenue and Morton Street. And there's a lot of asphalt here, and there's the police station here with a lot of dark rooftop. So there's a lot of space where the city can work directly to plant trees, to add landscape space, do things that make it more comfortable and healthier, but also a more pleasant place to walk and to be. So a lot of opportunities to work with the city, and for the city to work with other agencies, the T and others, to get more money and make investments that make Mattapan and our other neighborhoods more sustainable and healthy. So I'll stop there, and happy to take questions, or we can move on to the next item.
There are more slides.
That's it. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
If you can stop sharing. And to see people. Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Very interesting. I did see that there was a question in the chat, a couple of questions. One from David Holmes. He asked, how many gallons is your rain barrel?
I think it's 50. I think it's 55. You can buy rain barrels, and a lot of them are like shipping containers. They ship olives from Greece or something, and then they're available as rain barrels. I find that they're kind of ridiculously expensive, and I think there must be cheaper ways to get them. If you're ordering them, they're often like $90 to $100, and I have to imagine there are some out there available for about $10 because they were used for one purpose and now they're free for something else. But that's a low-cost solution that can have immediate benefits, keeping water out of your basement and helping your garden. A lot of our homes were designed originally 100 years ago to take all that roof water and they ran it right into the sewer system, but the city doesn't allow that anymore. So now our downspouts are all just draining onto the ground, and sometimes the ground isn't able to absorb all that water quickly.
Thank you. Sarah Freeman asked, if wood is used for construction and considering the pros and cons, how do they count the loss of mature trees as a source of wood?
That's a really good question. And part of the materials sourcing is, if you're using wood, it needs to come from a forest that's sort of managed and maintained. So as they're cutting down some trees for lumber, they're planting new ones. And so there are ways, just as a farmer sort of rotates crops, foresters can plant generations of trees that will become mature each year. But that's a really good question. We don't want to be cutting down the Amazon or other places that we need to be creating wood for homes. But there are fortunately other ways to source wood more sustainably, and it's those trees are capturing carbon as they're growing, and they're not creating all the carbon dioxide impacts that come with concrete or steel.
Is there anyone else who has a question before I ask the question? Okay. We have a lot of residents who, for 1 to 3 families, that have a lot of vinyl siding. A lot of it's older, some going back, decades. But is there anything that can be used to help cool or better insulation for siding that most people would have access to commercially? If they, you have to have, of course, a GA general contractor, but is there something that most people would be able to access instead?
That is a really good question, and I probably need to research the answer. I don't have a great answer, but I agree that that's a great opportunity, and especially since a lot of our houses, our older houses, they weren't built with insulation in the walls in the first place. And yes, you can blow in insulation. They'll cut around holes in between the structure and blow cellulose insulation in or foam insulation in, but that's challenging. So yeah, I think it's a really great question, because when vinyl or aluminum siding comes off, you may have old siding, but that might not be in good shape anymore. So I know there are materials like hardy plank is used a lot these days. It's made out of recycled wood fiber, like sawdust and other wood chips are sort of molded to create clapboards like traditional wood siding, and then those are put on the side of your house. But while that's happening, it's a good opportunity to install insulation in the wall, and also there's usually now like a vapor barrier. It's like a sheet, not plastic, but a breathable sheet that helps keep water out, but it helps your house breathe, and it cuts down on the drafts coming in. So that's a really good question, and I don't have the best answer, but I agree that's an important opportunity for when a house is ready for that. And obviously it's expensive, so for all these solutions we need to think about finance options. Are there other ways banks can offer loans for that? So
for the financing, I did research, and Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, which all banks have to, if they're lending, are part of, they do now recognize these types of loans. They call them Reno-Fi loans, my understanding. Which makes it available for people. And also, my understanding is you get credits. You can actually take them off as credits on your taxes, federal taxes. I don't know about the state, but on federal taxes. You did also have about for the heat pumps. My understanding is that it began in 2021. End of 2021, people would be able to write off up to $10,000 on their federal taxes by purchasing the heat pumps, which actually acts as both ways heating and cooling. Correct? So
I believe that's right. Yes.
those aren't commercially available. So, right, I mean, you could have a general contractor do that for you.
Yes, and there are growing numbers of contractors who are sort of ready, willing, and able to help with that. So yeah, it's a good opportunity, and yeah, that's gonna I think be a big change in our homes in the coming 10 or 20 years. And I'm curious to see about units that aren't just going on, like a lot of them, they go on the side of the house and they have units that go on the wall. But you can also get units that basically replace your furnace or your boiler right where it is. It always requires an outside unit that's a fan. That's where it's actually pulling the heat in from the air. But integrating that with your existing radiators or internal system is an important capability too, because it means it'll cost less and it's less disruptive to your house.
Right. Just another question. So Michelle had a question. Are the benefits of climate resiliency for renters only coming from what the landlord decides or doesn't decide to incorporate into their properties?
Not just, I mean, that's, I think it's where the city can come in, because in the case where the landlord is not interested in doing much, if the city is planting street trees where they're missing, or doing other things in the neighborhood that make it easy to access places by walking, giving choices to move around, doing electric vehicle charging, opportunities along the street, that can help. The other area would be choices of interior materials, like when buying furniture or paint or carpet inside. Some of those products can have materials or off gases or chemicals that are not healthy for us. And I think there are more restrictions these days on what manufacturers can do, but there's still a lot of materials that can be harmful. So that's the other thing. When you're buying products to put into your home, think carefully about that for green solutions.
Okay. Well, does anyone have any other questions? Matthew, others?
That was a illuminating presentation. I enjoyed it.
I'm happy to email a PDF of it. If that would be helpful.
Great, thank you so much. Appreciate your conversations, because part of the city, all different neighborhoods are going through different plan, as you know, our plan Mattapan process, and a huge part of it has to do with the environmental justice and how it relates to housing, transportation, and other efforts. So on the smaller scale, most of us, we do, people are, as your homes age, you want to do renovations, but you want to make sure that the renovations are actually beneficial, health-wise as well as financially. Thank you. Right.
Well, thank you for bringing this issue to the fore. And yeah, it will take all of us to be advocates to sort of bring the resources and technologies that'll really work in our homes and neighborhoods. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Let's see, our next presenter is in the room. Let's see this. Ryan Thomas and his crew. Ryan, are you here? Who's I don't know, I hear water. Oh, that was him. Is Ryan Thomas online? Huh. Okay, another person. So while we're waiting for him, just to make sure we keep on schedules, let's just go
I
and
do,
start.
I do see Ryan on the list here.
Ryan Thomas.
Yeah. Yeah, there we go.
You did see Ryan
Hey,
Thomas?
folks.
Oh, there you are. Hi.
Can y'all hear me okay?
Yes, I didn't see you. Thank you, Matthew, for verifying him in the Hollywood Squares. How are you this evening?
Good, good. So glad to be here, and thanks for inviting us. And pardon my minor delay. I was having some technical hangups getting into the meeting, but really appreciate being here, and thank you for the invite.
You're welcome. So I'll just do a brief invite. We're trying to keep to a very tight schedule just because we're trying to end on time tonight. So we're going to take about 20 minutes. So folks, I'd like to introduce Ryan Thomas. He is an adjunct professor of architecture and urbanism at the School of Architecture and Design at Wentworth Institute of Technology. And the presentation with he and his students is using the river as the center for environmental justice and equitable development on the Neponset River corridor, meaning Mattapan Square and the Harvest River Bridge, which is you can see when you go upon the Neponset Greenway. So Ryan, if you'd like to start and introduce your team, and like I said, we are time sensitive, so if we can keep it very succinct, be much appreciated. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Fatima. And thank you, everyone, for allowing us to be here. We really appreciate having the opportunity to share our work with you. Wentworth Institute of Technology has had a pretty deep relationship with a lot of different communities around this area, and we would like to be able to continue that relationship broadly. And thank you so much for just having us. I can't say it enough. I'm joined by Taylor Blaney, Ryan Tupper, and I want to make sure all of my students are on here. Rex and Nathaniel are also on the line. And so these four students have worked primarily in Mattapan Square. And these students are focused primarily at the intersection of Mattapan Square as it crosses over into Milton, over the Blue Hill Avenue and the Parkway where it reaches the river. And they're looking at both sites in Milton and in Mattapan. And this group of students in particular is particularly interested in transit mobility as well as open space and tree canopy equity and access to the Neponset River Greenway through other forms of connection to the water. So not primarily taking unsafe roadways if they're currently not prone for walkability, but finding other opportunities and avenues for placemaking therein. So I won't hold much more time here. If the folks are able to maybe share their screen and we can talk a little bit about the work that they've done, if that's fair.
Yeah, I can,
thank you.
I can pull up the screen if you guys are all set.
Please start. Thank you.
So I guess I'll introduce myself first. I'm Nathan.
I'm Ryan.
Sorry, Ryan. I'm Taylor.
Hi, I'm Rex.
This is our project that we did on the Neponset.
So to start off, our mission statement here is integrating destinations along the Neponset with inclusionary placemaking through resolving transit in various scales. And we're going to go into explanation on what that means and how we can show that and produce that within Mattapan Square in Milton.
So kind of like our key points of interest and kind of where we're going to focus our research and kind of our site analysis is going to be these four areas right here. So you're going to have River Street and Blue Hill Ave up here. You're going to have the Mattapan Station. You're going to have and Cape and Valley down here.
So for starters, I'm sure everyone here is familiar with the area, but starting in the beginning of September, when we started to look into the area, we wanted to, hit the ground running for those of us who weren't familiar at first and see what were the experiences at each stop, what were the discrepancies in what you would be getting at each stop, and what kind of makes you want to get off at each stop, and what makes you want to stay at each stop eventually. If you go to the next one. So we started to research the ridership demographics because that wasn't very public through MassDOT or the MBTA. So we actually researched by using 4 different times a day, and different age categories between child, young adult, adult, and senior, counting how many people got in and out at each stop and kind of average that total. Obviously, Ashmont and Mattapan were large outliers, being the beginning and the end of the trolley. And how we kind of started to categorize safety data. So designing for safe spaces, what do those components look like? So we had 4 different categories: eyes on the street, what are you seeing? What sort of residential or commercial or retail public buildings is there access to? What do you have that kind of makes you intriguing to get off the stop? Lighting at the stop, how well is that taken care of? And lighting 5 feet in each direction of the stop. Do you actually want to continue at each stop, or do you want to kind of stay and maybe go to the next stop because it's not well lit enough? Access to services. So can you park your car there? Are you going to be able to walk? Do you have access to the greenway or the river? Biking and general signage and direction. And then security infrastructures, security cameras, MBTA attendance, and emergency blue light boxes. So we just kind of surveyed that to start to decide what we wanted to look at. We'll go to the next one. And sort of conceptualizing based on the average ridership. What is this looking like? Obviously, Mattapan and Ashmont were so large, they kind of get knocked off as outliers. But why are some things safer? Are more people using it because there are certain design concepts that make it feel safe, or were they specifically designed because more people are using them? I'll go to the next one.
This map is to show, firstly, is our interesting areas. We saw there's 4 really potential areas can be improved on in the new levels, and also to show the ratio between nearby commercial areas and also with the medical and healthcares. I think in this map, there's specific ratio between each part is our focus point. So next one.
So then we started to gather a lot of interest in not only the Mattapan station stop, because it is so popular being at the end, but what experiences are you getting at Capon and Valley that are less used, that would kind of start to branch away from Mattapan? How can we bring the sort of popularity and life back into that, and what experiences can we start to mimic from the Mattapan station that would give a sense of placemaking and destination for more people to want to use those stops? Next. So these are just kind of 4 concepts of design strategies that we wanted to implement all throughout our proposal. So if we want to go into detail about those.
Yeah, so on our first one here is kind of a street front facade, kind of how we can improve walkability, how you can make it safe for people obviously walking
Excuse me,
along.
Nathan, can you speak up, please?
Yeah, I
Thank
can
you. Thank you.
actually, if someone wants to take over, I can change my audio settings real quick. One of the group mates texted and said I was kind of quiet.
Yeah, so the street front facade, we're kind of focusing on how is the commercial versus the mixed use housing. How can we start to incorporate that a little more, make it a little more inviting? Bike lanes, sort of incorporating the green spaces, tailoring this to each space that it needs to be put into. We're ready for the next one.
I want to see, is the audio okay now, or is it a little bit better?
You're
Okay, awesome. Thank you. So this one's kind of focusing on how we're going to incorporate the green spaces. As you'll see in a lot of our projects and our ideas, we use a lot of green space in these. That was kind of our key focus, how we can improve walkability and transportation, and kind of how you can interact with the buildings you're going to, ideally create in these areas. And this one is kind of looking at safer commuter spaces. This is kind of an example of what a bus stop would look like, but you can bring these ideas of green space and these little moments that make you want to go there into every stop that we kind of use. You'll see on our different T stops and our different bus stops, we kind of implement the green space into those as well. And then another thing you'll see on a lot of our projects is this reconnection to the river, where we want to bring the community back into the river by using this kind of terracing that brings you down to the river. You'll see a few of the sites will have a boat launch, which is something we experienced while we were there, and kind of wanted to bring that over to our side of the projects as well, and really just make it a more enjoyable space than what it seems like it is right now.
So for our design proposals, we sort of each focused on 4 specific spots and looked at what's the area that those are going to start to expand and overlap, and on different scales, how are these going to affect communities.
So if you want to take it, I can.
No, you can go for it.
All right, so here we have kind of like our overall site plan, kind of looking at what each project is going to look like. Just a quick overview, like roof plans of it, kind of showing how each one's going to tie into each other through the greenway, obviously kind of running right here. You'll get that terracing on some of the waterfronts, and you obviously see like where the boat launches would ideally be, and kind of obviously like where the red line or the trolley line is going to run through, and kind of just how we wanted to tie everything together.
So here we can see some of the connections that we're proposing. So what we want to talk about here is how there's many connections throughout that we need to expand upon and utilize. So we can see that throughout Mattapan Square in the Milton area, there are natural connections through there, but they're not actually there. They're not connected. So what we want to do is make sure that these areas in Milton and in Mattapan, different side of the river, are actually connected, and there's an easy way to get through to them and bring both communities together. Go to the next one.
So for one of our first proposals, we came up with the Mattapan Commons, taking some design cues from the Boston Commons itself. Kind of obviously like creating a huge public space that the community could use and basically help develop the community around this development itself, and obviously tie into what's there already. As you'll see on this slide, I highlighted some of the key points of interest. So this green is going to be like open space that's not used, that you could turn into public green space in the future or in this development. All this like turquoise is going to be what's going to be like your residential development, where you could expand what's there already, or you could build any new developments. Obviously the loop is there. I'm sure most people are familiar with that. And then along Blue Hill Ave, you'll get that commercial space that you can basically develop on top of, or you can rework in any way that will better fit the community without taking away what's already there. Kind of looking at just an aerial rendering of what that could look like really quickly. Kind of how the green space itself would work and how the circulation would work throughout that.
So for this proposal, our main distinction here is to change the Mattapan station into the Mattapan Grove station. And what we do with that is it would create placemaking, create a destination that people would like to come to, and bring both sides of the river together. So you can go to the next one. So here's what it could look like with our improvements and our changes in there. So we're going to talk about each one of these, but as you can see, it's drastically different as what it looks like today. Go to the next one. So here we're going to do some kind of thing with the public transit. So we know Mattapan Square is pretty busy area, and there's a lot of buses and a lot of people and commuters and cars and traffic and all of it. It's a lot going on there. So what we want to do is make it so that there's not as much going on there, and the things that are going on there are controlled. So one of our first ideas here is to connect between Milton and Mattapan and another bridge over by Capon Street there, and by that Apex bus stop. So as you can see, the new bus line, proposed bus line, would actually circumvent Mattapan Square itself, and then go connect back up to Blue Hill Ave a little bit higher, up near the Commons Nate's project. So what that would do is it would bring the large buses outside of Mattapan Square themselves, but in keeping with the movement of the people and making sure we're not taking away anything, we would propose that there's going to be a connector trolley line along Blue Hill Ave that will serve that need of the bus, but also keeping rich with the history of Mattapan Square itself. So the connector line would be a single train car that would go up and down Blue Hill Ave and have multiple stops along Blue Hill Ave, allowing for easy transit. And it would stop, its end stops would be Mattapan Station and up by the commuter rail. So we'll have that connection there, because right now there's not much connection between the commuter rail and Mattapan Square unless you want to walk or bus or something. So you can go to the next one. So with designing the new station and the new connector rail, what we've decided is that with the new red line coming in and how those are omnidirectional, we no longer need that turnaround in Mattapan Square, but we do need a turnaround for the trolley. So with the new red line, the old trolley that's there right now, we propose to use that again and revitalize that. So not only with using it and keeping it in use along the connector rail, but also making a museum for the trolley line and the MBTA in Mattapan Station and Mattapan Square, so that it becomes something that people want to go and learn about and see. So you can see here that we've taken the turnaround and moved it a little bit and turned it around so that now the trains can go the other direction instead of just back towards Milton and Ashmont. So now they go back up and around. So you can see the turnaround there, and that those two tracks actually meet and they create a moment where people have to interact and connect with each other before they move between different rails or back into Mattapan Square itself. Can you go to the next one? So this is looking back at the actual intersection itself. As we know, the data there and everything, and we've looked through all the MassDOT data and the crashes and figured out why they're happening, what's causing them, what times they are, who's making these crashes, and we've come to the conclusion that it's mainly during commuter hours, and it's a rush hour type of deal, but not many people are distracted. So what we want to do is just make it easier and more straightforward, because people are getting into trouble when they don't realize what's going on and there's too much happening. So what we actually want to do is add some things. I know that sounds crazy, but what we're going to do here is with the connector rail, it actually creates a moment along Blue Hill Ave where there's things on either side. So people will go slower. It's a perception thing where when there's a lot going on around you and things are bigger than you, it makes you slow down and really take in what's coming around you. So that's what we've done here. And then we've also revitalized how the connections happen. So right now the square itself has, 5 different roads meeting into it. And that's another cause for concern and issue. So what we've done is looked at the traffic patterns and understood that if you limit those interactions, we can improve on those. So what we've done is we've limited the different types of turns. You can only take turns rights and not lefts, because we have those other connector roads around Mattapan Square itself that we can utilize that are very underutilized right now. We can utilize those to make it so not as much traffic actually goes through Mattapan Square. And as you can see here in this diagram, the different light colors there, the green and the red, will show what is happening during those different sequences. So we can see that everyone moves efficiently and nicely through. You can go to the next one.
I just want to let you all know that in the interest of time, for the 2 subsequent parts of the projects that are in Milton, if you could just breeze past them and just discuss very quickly about the fact that they exist and they're intended to integrate back with Mattapan Square. But I just want to make sure that we're giving time back to the meeting overall for the council. It's a lot of information, so we should just focus strictly on Mattapan Square and move forward if that's okay.
Okay.
Thank you all.
All right, so here is that museum I talked about earlier, the Station Museum, the Mattapan Grove Station, and is actually a museum now. So we would take one of the older TTC cars that are currently used and make that the mainstay and the main piece of this museum, as well as making it a museum for the line, for the trolley line and for the MBTA, so that we can keep that rich history here. There isn't an MBTA museum in Boston. So that's something that we need to talk about and incorporate, because this is our history. This is where we are from. The whole line is very vital to Mattapan itself. So incorporating that history back into the area is very vital and important. So another thing you can see here is the boat launch. So when we were in Mattapan, it's clear to us that in the square itself, the river is very underutilized too. So opening up this river and really utilizing it in its great natural resource that it is, and creating a place where we can, open up boats to it, canoes, have more people there, a nice park along the river. So people use it. People want to come to Mattapan and they want to enjoy themselves there. You can go to the next one.
So in this proposal, our target is try to connect the both side community of the Neponset River by redesign the Cummins Street community and also extend the Cabin Street. Next one. That's overall lookings, and so we try to create like a walkable greenery and also the multi daily services stations by reactivate this community. Next one. So for the logic of the breakdown the wall, so firstly we will insert like medical health cares and to support like daily life requirements for these local peoples, and also insert like commercial areas and also like a multi-using greeneries for more activities, and insert like a new housing project to support like a local communities. Next one. So that's it's a potential areas and also the major surrounding in these indicated areas, and we try to use this proposal to give a positive influence for the surroundings. It's not just only like rebuild like new stuff. Next one. Firstly is regional co-housing. So for this project, we try to put like a multi groups of people together, and such as disabilities, disabled, and the mental issues, and with a normal person, and each of the groups can be responsible to these communities by their own ways. For example, like for the disabled, they can provide like artworks to support like local communities, and the normal person can take care of the special groups and give some like a helps and to earn some like a feedback from the daily life costing. Next one. So for the health centers, so we separate like to the like daily life clinics, and also with the mental health treatment. So the mental health clinics separate into the kids using and also with the adult using. Next one. For the stations, we will rebuild the stations. The station is mixed use with the galleries. So that's all looking for the overall like station looks. Next one. This one is more about like functions. So as you can see inside of the stations, it have the huge galleries, and it doesn't take any money to take a tour of this whole galleries. But if you want to buy a ticket, and there's the option to donate to support like local communities or some special groups. This one is it's repeat. Next one. So for the local commercial areas, so it's like built multi-commercial systems to support like the daily life of these communities, and they don't like to take a really long driving time to go to the Mattapan squares, and that's more helpful like some special groups in this community. Next one.
So proposal 4 at Valley Road Stop, the main issue is it is not ADA accessible, and it doesn't have any connection back over to the other side of the river. There's no sense of placemaking when we were experiencing the actual trolley line. Mattapan Square is such a lively and amazing space. As you start to get more towards into Milton, there's such a missed opportunity with connection to the river and open space. It's really just people using it, getting to school or getting to work. Nobody's really trying to spend time on the Greenway. There's actually no connection to the Greenway. It's fenced off because of the topography at Valley Road Stop. So we can see that the proposal here, the ideas behind it, is to reconnect back across the trolley line, figuring out some of the topography within that, opening up the green space, reintroducing some mixed use housing. So it would have community recreational space on the bottom, and then the housing on top. If you actually go to the next slide, it should show it better. You can kind of start to visualize maybe basketball courts, tennis courts, something for a lot of young adults were getting off on the stop, and there was nothing really for them to do. You kind of just walk home. There's no access to like a park or something, anywhere to spend time. So the real experience we thought was going over to, you have to get off at Central Ave and walk approximately 20 minutes to get to this point at Valley, and that's a misconnection for being on the Greenway. So opening it back up and crossing across the trolley is really important. Again, we sort of have the same sort of kayak boat launch to get down and experience the water with that terracing, and a little proposed a bandshell seating area, so that there's space for people to use in the community, and just reconnect again, a sense of placemaking and something you don't want to just get off and go home. You want to get off and maybe spend time with your friends, and it's intentional. If you want to go to the next one. So this is just showing again how all 4 proposals are kind of working together, trying to tie together the extension of the history and the culture that is in Mattapan Square, starting to bring people out and make the use of the trolley more intentional and the greenway. If you want to go to the next one. And just sort of visualizing that at a very conceptual stage, how that sort of connection would look along the river.
Folks, if you could head back to your original plan, like a couple slides ago, there's good, and leave it open for questions. I just want to say thanks everyone for the time and attention. I understand it was a little long, so if folks have questions, we can address those in the chat. Fatima, you please let us know.
Sure. Thank you so much for your presentation. It was very detailed, and I have to say a lot of, when did you start gathering the data?
In September.
Just this past September? Well, yes. I can tell you that you have a lot of data that a lot of people would love to have that similar data for other, like for the buses as well. So I really do appreciate a lot of your detail and how did they say, out of the box thinking? It may, you know, we're just as a sidebar, where are you guys all from? Are you from Massachusetts or are you not? You know,
I'm from Worcester area.
Okay.
I'm from the Worcester area as well.
I'm from Maine.
You're from Maine.
Oh.
Okay. And
I'm
Rex?
from China.
You're from China. Hey,
Yeah.
nearby.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see where we started with questions in the chat.
I mean, I can address Chad at the moment. So we kind of looked at these with about a 5-year plan and what we can accomplish within 5 years. So we think most of these can get done within that 5-year time frame. So that's what we're looking for. In Alensa, so to our understanding that the red line will be updated so that it'll have the new trains and keep the trolley line still there as it is. So our renderings reflect the fact that it'll be the new cars instead of the old trolley line cars. And then for Barbara, we haven't talked directly to either of these organizations. We haven't put much thought to it, as most of this land is either on MBTA, Massachusetts land, or DCR land itself, and then some of the other projects are on private land. So it would have to be a nice working with everybody to actually have these come to fruition. But we look at this more of a feasibility study and how we can help and what things we can do to help before looking into how to implement that in the best way possible.
I will add a bit of nuance to that as well, to Barbara's question. She asked if DCR or the MBTA are supporting these designs because the original plan of the Neponset Greenway, there were similar ideas where nothing had happened. And even the station was shortchanged in the design is what she had suggested. And to Ryan's point, we have had limited conversation with each of these. DCR is aware of these proposals as they exist right now, these ideas. And we've had conversation with the MBTA, at least with the design team and some of their public engagement folks who are working particularly on the Mattapan trolley transformation program. However, we really aren't informing them in any direct way. Again, this is much more akin to a feasibility study to show what could be based on some shared agreements of landowners and these constituencies and agencies together around these ideas. We want to make sure that they're first rooted in what everyone here has to say and what everyone in the community has to share, so that way we can actually make more informed decisions and really give these students ultimately a meaningful experience for how to move through the world as a practitioner of the built environment. And so that's kind of the premise here. It's not so much a proposal as a place for learning. Jovan, do you have a question?
Yeah, just a statement. I would first of all thank you for this presentation. You know, I would love for you guys to present it to the Milton side, and if the Milton side agree, because you guys have a whole nother town, you know, that's right next door to us. And if they would agree, you know, this would be beautiful. You know, looking at this, it really makes me think about the Cambridge side of where Boston and Cambridge meet over there by the bridge. It just like, you know, like, we have a beautiful Neponset River that is fenced in, that should be open. and you guys pretty much show how it can be open, because one of the things we face in this community is gentrification. And sadly, when the gentrification pretty much takes over, this is going to be doable. And we would love for it to be done now. At least a resident as myself. I can't speak for everybody, but this is, and it's nice you guys brought this idea up, not knowing the history between the Mattapan and the Milton line, why certain things haven't moved forward. But we need new thinkers like you guys coming in kind of blind in a way and presenting this to both sides and saying it can work, because it can work and we need to make it work. And it would be beautiful for it to work now for some of us who's been there for a long time, instead of just waiting till, a whole nother community come along. So thank you very much. Very much appreciate this presentation.
Thank you, Javon.
Thank you, Javon.
Thank you.
There are two other participants that have hands raised. Let's see.
One of them
Matthew?
was me, Fatima. I think I might be the only one. I wanted to echo actually a lot of what Jovan said. I was thinking some of the same things for sure. That was, you got just like a big compliment to the team there, and to Ryan. This is, we listened to a lot of proposals that are similar to this, or maybe a couple steps further down the road, but of this nature. And honestly, there were some side texting going on that you guys weren't privy to, about just like how this is really good. Like, this is more persuasive than a lot of the stuff that we sit through often. So kudos to you all. I really love the way that you're thinking about connecting the two communities, and Fatima made a point to ask you where you all are from, and I think it's a great example of how you don't see necessarily the same lines that we do, that are they're basically imagining, right? And when they're real in real life, they're felt and they're lived, but you all can come in with kind of a fresh set of eyes, and like the idea of making a connection at the end of Capon Street there is like, whoa, that would be really cool. Like how much of a change that would make in the way that people live their lives. And I guess it's anyone's opinion as to whether or not it would be better, but it's certainly a cool idea, and I applaud you all for what a great job you've done. Thank you.
Thanks, Matthew. If I could just quickly add to that, though, like most of the suggestions that have been made by the students have tried to take an analytical approach. So at least nothing is contrived. It wasn't like cool design ideas, right? It was like, how can we really give benefit to both sides of the river in whatever way possible? And one thing we saw is that right in that Capon, street section where it really meets the edge of the river, for Miltonians, they're really abutting the river with no connection back to the nearest healthcare infrastructure, without going back onto a highway and taking 15 extra minutes to drive just to get to a hospital. And, just connecting the river in a way that's actually, using a more pedestrian friendly, bus friendly corridor through this area could actually make it much more suitable for Miltonians, as well as, those of Mattapan. So we wanted to try to find incentive for both sides, while actually addressing some of these root cause problems.
Yeah, I think you've done it.
I've never heard, now you stated it twice. I thought maybe I heard it mistakenly the first time. I never heard Miltonians, but that is the first.
I heard it from their associate director for planning and development. And I was like, I had never heard it either, but there it is.
Okay, I stand corrected. One slide that I was interested in is, I think, Ryan, you had, was the crash data, I think at the intersection. I think it was near,
Yes.
Is that near the T? Is that near the station itself?
Yeah, so that crash data is directly from the square. So what I did is I went into the MassDOT data source, and I created a box around. I can actually share my screen and the actual crash points if you would like.
Well, if you can just explain the difference between the different what we're looking at. Like
So what we're looking at right here is so I think you're referring to those green and red dots. Those green and red dots signify the actual traffic signals, the traffic lights in there. So when it's green, greens go, red stop. So this diagram is showing who's going when and where they're going. So to control that traffic, we want to make sure that we have direct paths and we know where everyone's going. So there isn't much leeway. So like I said, we can control it all so that we know where people are going so we can make sure it stays safe and efficient for everybody. But the data itself is derived from the MassDOT website, and we've pinpointed each and every crash location, and we figured out where those hotspots are. And from that, we tried to get rid of those hotspots and figured out why those hotspots are happening and get rid of why they're happening instead of just getting rid of them.
Okay. So, and you did it in September at different points of the day? Is that?
Yeah, so what I did is what I looked at was I took the last 10 years of crashes throughout the day. I looked at each time, I looked at who it was. So I just took basically a pool of data, and then from the data sifted through and categorized it into what each crash was. And from that, we can understand what each crash was. So, and use that to create these results.
That's good. So 10 years worth. So from, what is this? So from 2012 to now, is that what
Correct.
we're saying? Okay. Great. No, that is very helpful. Thank you. Are there others? Oh, there are five new messages. Well, Leah Dutton had asked which streets. Leah, do you want to ask your question?
I just was curious of like, is this Blue Lab and Cummins Highway? Which exact
Yeah,
street?
so it would be that. It would be Cummins Highway, Blue Hill Ave, River Street, where they all meet together in Mattapan Square itself.
Okay. And because that direction, the street goes on one direction, how it loops around already.
Correct.
Anyway.
Yeah, down there it loops again. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Leah, for your question. Very helpful. And are there any other questions that others have? Any raised hands? I don't see. Anybody else see? Okay. Well, thank you very, very much for the presentation. And did you say that we would have access to the presentation, or is it like?
Yeah, Fatima, I'll send that to you directly, and you can feel free to share it widely. I want to make sure that the students have one more glance over it all to take in any of the comments and feedback, add things like annotations and such to make sure that it's clear and everyone can see it for their own record and such. But Rosalind, you had a comment in here of what their next steps are. I can quickly address that. What the students are doing now, since I had 3 different groups in this particular design studio, this is just one group of 4 students. We had 12 students total, so 3 groups total. They are working on urban design guidelines and best practices across the entire Neponset River corridor, from Mattapan Square all the way up to Ashmont. And so basically they want to come up with different design ideas and strategies that can be effective in providing equity in terms of the open space, access to community resources, as well as creating housing equity as well, by way of understanding the economic development and market dynamics of property across both ends of the river. And so they're looking at multiple locations on the site to try to address that. And when we compile that document, I'll send that back to everyone so everyone has a copy of it, and we can kind of, get some feedback from everyone and see if it's, fundamentally helpful for everyone here.
Thank you so much. Is it okay once you send that presentation, is it okay to also provide publicly people contact information? Because as Javon and others, there are other neighborhood groups who are right along the river, such as the River Street Civic Association, the Edgewater Neighborhood Association, and there are others who I'm sure would benefit from listening to your presentation with fresh eyes. So is that okay?
Yeah, most definitely. Absolutely. Okay. Yeah, I'll send that your way and give you the point of contact, and you're welcome to reach me anytime.
Okay. Thank you so much again. Very, very wonderfully done, well thought out. I commend the presenters. It shows that you did a lot of great thinking in consideration of people and how they live their lives, and take consideration of our neighbors, you know, and bring us more together instead of setting up barriers for each other. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
As well as others.
We appreciate the time.
Thank you,
Thank you all.
guys.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you
Appreciate
guys
it.
so
Appreciate all your
much.
thoughts and comments.
Oh, no, thank you. Thank you. Look forward to seeing what you guys do next. Let's see. All righty. We're going to move on now to next to committee, GMNC committee reports. Matthew, do you want to start with public services?
Yes, I'd be happy to. And I apologize, I haven't sent out our normal notice for it yet, but we will be meeting tomorrow night. Typically I wind up sending those out when somebody emails me and says, hey, can we talk about this month? And so far nobody has, so we don't have any agenda topics. It'll be a free form meeting. Maybe we'll do a little recap of that presentation we just heard, which was an interesting one. And we're, you know, have an open space to talk about whatever folks are interested in. We did not meet last month in lieu of our election. So thank you to all who spent your public service committee time out doing the public service of voting. And we'll be picking it back up this month, tomorrow night. Like I said, open agenda. So I look forward to speaking with those who are able to make it. If you'd like for me to include you on my emailing, that will go out probably sometime tomorrow. Go ahead and drop your email in the chat and I will make sure you are included if I don't already have you. That's all for now, Fatima. Thanks.
Thank you, Matthew. Appreciate it. Okay, next is the GMNC zoning committee recommendations from November's meeting. There are 4 properties or present proposals. The first is 631 Cummins Highway, where there's a proposal to place a financial literacy center. That, just to give you a sense of placement, it would be near the Crest Farms liquor store, directly next to the Sunoco gas station and across the street from Davis Funeral Home. So that would be, right now it is existing as a church. So they would need to ask for, and it was sold to them, but they would need to ask for, they are asking for variances to change the building to add another level. Also to, they would need parking, which they don't have currently. The zoning committee made a recommendation after hearing the presentation that there still needed to be more work done, especially with direct butters, because they had not yet spoken to the butters, the liquor store, the gas station, nor the funeral home to ask about parking, because they had planned on opening up the space for public use as well as classes for financial literacy meetings. With that said, the recommendation was to keep it one level and then to have to work with the abutters on parking, which would include, of course, the 3 direct abutters, liquor store, funeral center, and Davis Funeral Home, and the gas station. So with that said, could I get a recommendation to put that forward? Matthew, if we have everyone present. Almost everyone present. Matthew?
Yeah, I'm in favor of the recommendation.
Okay. Pam?
Yes, I'm in favor of the recommendation.
David?
Yes, in favor of the recommendation.
Let's see. Wesley?
I am in favor of the recommendation as well.
Thank you. Chad?
Yes, I'm in favor.
Thank you. William?
In favor.
Okay. Michelle?
I'm in favor.
Nikki?
In favor.
Thank you. Who am I missing? I think Cisco had. Naldine? You can come off. You can come off mute. Naldine?
I'm here. Hi.
Can you? Are you in favor?
Sorry, I can't really hear.
I'm sorry.
I can't really hear.
Oh, okay. No problem. Abstain. Okay, no problem. Okay, so we have the majority already of 8 yeses. Hearing no, 1 abstention. Are there any opposition? Hearing none, it passes. The second proposal is for 17 Mascot Street, and the recommendation is to approve it. The proposal with the proviso that the parking spaces be reduced from 3 spaces to 2 spaces. Can I get a vote? Matthew?
Yeah, I'm in favor of that recommendation.
Pam's in favor.
Pam? Okay. David?
In favor.
Russ?
In favor.
Chad?
I'm in favor, but I do want to ask exactly where is this? I'm not too sure where this is, what the address is. I'm sorry. I mean, I heard you say, but I'm like,
Do you want to abstain?
see, I think I am going to, since I don't know yet.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough. William?
In favor.
Okay. Michelle?
In favor.
Nikki?
Can I abstain as I don't know the exact location?
Naldine?
I'm gonna abstain as well.
Okay, no problem. We still have majority 1, 2. Okay. Majority, the recommendation passes with the majority. The third one is 18 Fabian Street. That is directly off of Blue Hill Avenue, over near closer to Woodrow Avenue area. The recommendation, because this is a situation where a developer was given the green light originally by ISD because they thought that they had an as of right. ISD, when it was found that there was an error made and that they had to actually go back to and then get a variance. The project had already though gotten to the point where it would create a significant hardship on the developer as well as other development that is nearby because of construction equipment. The current state of the property, the dimensions are not excessive, and therefore that because it was seen that at different points during the permitting process that should have gone and stopped early on, everything from the foundation onward, that was not done. The GMNC zoning committee makes a recommendation that the developer be allowed to complete the project and go forward. If I'd like to put that to a vote, could I, Matthew?
Yeah, I'd like to vote in favor of supporting that recommendation.
Thank you. Pam?
In favor.
Thank you. David?
Also in favor.
Thank you. Wes?
In favor.
Thank you. Chad?
Yes, I'll vote in favor of that recommendation, sure.
Thank you. William?
In favor.
Thank you. Michelle?
In favor.
Thank you. Nikki?
In favor.
Thank you. Naldine?
In favor.
Thank you. All right. Did I miss one? Azan, you said her? Did I miss him? I think I missed him the first time. He must have had to jump off. We have the majority, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 yeses. That passes with the recommendation. The last proposal that was brought forward is for 64 Clarkwood Street. The recommendation is to wait until the applicant resubmits with the requested updated plans as well as the construction phasing plan. There were issues that came up and have been going on for over 1.5 years, and the zoning committee presented because of certain actions that had not been completed and have been repeatedly asked of them, that finally they had 30 days was given to them, business days from November 18th to submit the updated documents. The original email was sent to them on November 18th, stating that such a follow-up email was sent today. There have been no new documents submitted and no further communication from either the applicant nor their attorney. With that said, until December 27th to submit those documents. If they do not submit the documents, the GMNC zoning committee recommends that they not be allowed to receive support from the council board. Can I please get a recommendation or get a vote for those recommendations? Matthew?
Yep. We'll vote in favor of making that recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Pam?
In favor.
Thank you. David?
In favor.
Thank you. Wes?
In favor.
Thank you. Chad?
Yes, I'm in favor.
Thank you. William?
In favor.
Thank you. Michelle?
In favor.
Thank you. Nikki?
In favor.
Thank you. Naldine?
In favor.
Thank you. With that said, those four, that's the closing of the proposals that were brought forth in November. The next zoning committee meeting will be on Thursday, December 15th. And the properties will be listed before the end of this week. The documents are supposed to be uploaded within the next week by the proponents. Next on the agenda are community updates. Jeff Alexis. First, speaking of Cummins Highway redesign update, meeting times, or how are we doing? Would you like to begin? Come off mute.
Oh, yeah, yes. Good afternoon, everyone. Once again, thank you for having me, Fatima. To be honest, I mean, we're still kind of zeroing on meeting times and dates for our next Cummins Highway meeting, but we do want to have a large general meeting to invite everyone and have a project update in terms of design elements, specific design elements that we would like to hope to show on the community. So renderings, road plans. We want everyone to get a kind of idea of what the vision for Cummins Highway will look like in terms of the corridor in that sense of the design. We were still working through our 100% design, so we wanted to be able to get all the comments from all of the respective city agencies before developing those renderings and those plans, which will be a better representation of the Cummins Highway project. So we're hoping to meet sometime. We're looking at late January, early February. We're working through those dates right now. But yeah, that's essentially the update that we have in regards to Cummins Highway. We're still moving forward with our schedule, where we're looking at hopefully beginning construction probably late springtime, early summer, and with still it's going to take a couple of construction seasons in order to complete the construction. But yeah, we're holding fast and trying to get out there as quick as we can.
So you're saying considering late 2023 spring? Is that what
Yes. Yes. We're a bit behind. But yeah, we are still hoping to advertise in the first quarter of the new year. First quarter hopefully doesn't edge into the second quarter. So we can actually get construction started hopefully late spring or early summer.
Okay. All right. And if there are any questions that anyone has, may they contact you directly through email?
Yes. Email me. We are putting together our engagement plan where not only will we have a couple of meetings that we can kind of speak to everyone, but we also will kick off our I believe we're looking at this, but kicking off the calendar meetings where you can meet with us for like 15 minutes and talk about more of the project if you want to have a little bit more detail that's kind of related to, if it's like related to like in front of your home or something like that, we can definitely have those discussions as well.
And are you having smaller meetings with some of the neighborhood associations that are along Cummins Highway, so like Colorado Street, I think Ruskindale Road, and some of the others that are over there?
No, that has not been planned for this rounds of community engagement. But as I mentioned, like we've already kind of the plans have kind of already been set in terms of what we're doing for Cummins Highway. So this is more of giving community an update on what the final plans will be.
Right,
we have
I just meant in those because they're smaller and they are really the direct abutters as we are. I mean, we're in the larger meetings, yes. Okay.
The intent will be to invite everyone at these meetings, and then if they would like to have like further engagement and conversations, will be available for that.
Okay. We have two questions really quick. You got 30 seconds, Joanne.
Yeah, how you doing, Jeff? I thought nothing was said. I thought you guys had plans and then you guys canceled it based on the community reaction towards Cummins Highway. Now you're saying that you guys are going to have construction. I don't understand how you're going to have construction on something that the community hasn't approved.
That has not happened. I mean, I think I want to say back in, I want to say maybe around the end of the previous year, last year, we kind of determined that we were moving forward with the Cummins Highway project. Subsequently, we had a number of community engagement meetings to kind of discuss specific elements that we were proposing as part of this design. I think we might have had maybe 12 or 13 meetings that kind of dived into the green infrastructure that looked into the street trees, that looked at the lighting, that looked at traffic, that looked at designing for all ages and vulnerable individuals. So there was a number of meetings that we had subsequently to making the decision that we were moving forward with the Cummins Highway project. I mean, that was something that was announced at a meeting. We sent out flyers and postcards. So I mean, this has been determined and decided. I mean, I want to say almost a year ago, over a year ago.
Okay.
All right, Jeff.
Thank you. Giselle?
Hey, Jeff, the next meeting in late January, is that going to be in person or virtual?
As of right now, more than likely it'll be virtual. I don't think we've been moving towards having in-person meetings as of yet. Just in terms of the climate and health, we're still focusing and still moving forward with virtual meetings. I mean, there were conversations of possibly having some type of like an open house meeting, but as of right now, we're still moving forward with virtual meetings.
And just very quickly, is there, are you folks taking additional comments, feedback? Or has
I mean, we're always open to feedback in regards to the project.
in regards to details of the project? I just want to, okay.
Yes,
great,
yes.
thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, that is the intent for this next meeting, to kind of get into more details and show you some of the specific design elements that we're proposing along the corridor. So we will be accepting feedback in regards to those.
All right,
Okay.
thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Is Vivian Morris still with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, would you like to talk a little bit about the meeting on December 8th?
Sure. I wanted to say that I appreciate tonight's meeting because clearly there are so many extremely important environmental issues that are potentially extremely impactful on our community. So the meeting tonight was helpful to all of us. And in addition, on this Thursday evening, December 8th at 7 o'clock, the Edgewater Neighborhood Association has been working with the Neponset River Watershed Association, which is also working with many others on a project with a group called Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness, which is a grant to engage communities in discussions about the impact of climate change on our communities. And these are all communities along the Neponset River. So we would very, very much appreciate your coming to join us at this meeting. I thank Fatima for sending it out to the Neighborhood Council. I'll put into the chat what the link for registering is. It's a simple registration at neponset.org /focus group. But again, it's this Thursday evening, 7 o'clock, and hope you can come and bring your thoughts, but also hopefully we'll also learn a lot as well.
Thank you very much, Vivian. Oh, Gisela, did you have a question for Vivian? Your hand is raised. Gisela? Oh, maybe it was.
Sorry, I left it right. So I
Oh,
apologize.
okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
All
No
set.
problem. No problem. No problem. Thank you, Vivian, for everything that you keep doing. In the interest of time, are the city and elected official updates?
Can I go?
Who's that? Oh, hi, can you? Yeah.
Hi, guys.
You are city. I mean, we
Yes,
love
I
you,
am. You're
of
right.
course, but you got your city hat on.
Yeah, more importantly, I'm a resident. I'm a Mattapan resident.
That's right.
So two things.
Yes, ma'am.
First thing I wanted to do was want to say thank you to all the civics who are represented on this call, and the Greater Mattapan Neighborhood Council for being very diligent and very contributing to the draft plan Mattapan report. You're sharing out information, you're connecting with other residents, extending the knowledge and the educational component as it relates to planning, neighborhood planning, and allowing us without hesitation to present the presentation at your civic meetings. I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. I completely appreciate it, not just as a Mattapan resident, but just as a professional, that I can call on neighbors in this community to share information out, and you didn't even hesitate to do it. Absolutely want to tell you guys how much I appreciate you, and I look forward to the work in the future with you guys. That's the first thing I want to say. The second thing I want to say is that the feedback deadline was on yesterday, and we got a lot of great feedback from folks from the community and who made sure to meet their deadline and submit their material. And I want to say thank you to all of you who have submitted your feedback, good, bad, or indifferent. You did exactly what was asked of you. And I want to say thank you and how much I appreciate you for it. So other than that, I have no other updates at this time. Thank you.
Well, we appreciate you, Kenya, 100%, 110%. Always looking for getting people engaged. Appreciate it a lot. Is there anyone else? Eric, James, is he on?
Hi, everyone. Thank you guys.
Oh, there you are.
Thank you guys for
You
having
have,
me.
because Pam is my timekeeper, and she's keeping us tight. I am 5 minutes over, and I'm surprised she has not said anything. So
listen, I have
you got 1 minute.
talking point.
You
and
got 1 minute. You're on the clock, my friend.
Less than.
Get going.
Okay, my quick talking point is about the Boston Community Choice Electricity. As you guys have likely heard, the energy prices are expected to rise significantly this year. So until this month of next year, 2023, the Boston Community Choice electricity rates will remain the same. Currently, Eversource prices are 18 cents compared to the base CCE rate of 11.1 cents. And the city anticipates that Eversource prices may rise to 2.5 times that of Boston CCE. So third-party suppliers are already charging people more than 4 times of the basic CCE prices. So the city's encouraging residents to weigh their options and consider Boston Community Choice Electricity. You can join or leave the program at any time at no cost, and you can choose between 3 options. Consider enrolling in the program's 100% green option, optional green 100, to help us reach our city goal of being carbon neutral by 2050. And you can opt in today at boston.gov /BCCE. I'm going to go ahead and put that link in the chat. And we are also encouraging residents to get a free energy assessment to get discounts on energy saving measures at massav.com/Boston. I'm going to go ahead and put both of those links in the chat, and I'll also put my information in the chat. If you guys have any further questions, I can definitely connect you. But thank you guys for this time, and I appreciate you so much.
Thank you for keeping it short. I think Rep. Holmes just walked in. Thank you. Happy holidays to you also.
No, I just wanted to say happy holidays. I know we're over time.
Okay.
Wait to see everyone.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Alenza, did you have anything? At all that you wanted to announce, any activities or anything?
Not at this time, but I do know that some folks had reached out to me after the last Blue Hill Avenue meeting, so I'll be following up with folks just to have more discussion.
Okay.
I want to make sure that the community voice is center as possible, and many of you know that, but for the sake of saying it, I will just be following up with folks one-on-one.
Okay, great. Thank you. And just as I had stated at the last meeting, I'd like to announce I have a new grandson. First, I'm a first-time grandparent. So it's a holiday as of November 23rd in my home. And his name is, it's a very regal name. I just want to say, it's my daughter and son-in-law. His name is Bernard Hinkle Henderson V. But his grandmother is calling him Benny Big. So that is, in the future, maybe you'll see him on a Zoom call here or there. Thank you very much for the congratulations. And you never know, maybe he'll become, a Mattapan, Greater Mattapan part-time resident in the summer. Who knows? It's a destination spot we're going to be, folks.
Congratulations. Yay.
Thank
Love
you.
it.
Thank you. And also we have new board members in case you all saw the voting. It was long. I just want to welcome formally, let's see, Yorma, she joined on here. Nikki Wright was on there. Who else do we have here? Naldine Alexander and Cisco Fernandez was earlier on. We have 4 new board members, bringing to a total, I believe now we have 12. No, is that right? 14. So we are expanding and going into the new year, we're going to start preparing for elections that we anticipate being able to do in person, yay, in June. And our vice chair had an epiphany. He actually had a, woke up and had a dream, folks. So I think I saw, yep, there she is, Yvette Phillips. Yvette, I'll be reaching out to you about the Brooks School, maybe as a civic activity, getting students to help us with our GMNC elections. I don't know if the students in the school would be interested, but we would be interested in engaging in that manner, bringing that forward and let us know what they think. So yeah, Yvette, I believe you are the director of finance over there. Is that true still?
So I'm actually not a staff.
I made it up. There you go.
I'm not a staff member at Brook anymore, but I'm still.
Oh, okay.
Yes. at the top of the year, I transitioned. So yeah.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, I'll still reach out to them. I'll still reach out to you to get some contacts. over
Oh,
there.
okay. That's fine.
Okay, all right, thank you so much.
No
All right.
worries.
Well, it is now 8:10. Pam, did I do okay?
You sure did.
Well,
Thanks,
thank you very
Fatima.
much. Thank you.
Good
Thank you
night.
for keeping us on task.
No problem.